The picture of our education system revealed in this week's viability audit is a depressing one. 84% of our secondary schools and 46% of our primaries are in trouble with regard to falling numbers, falling standards or financial shortfall. The Minister, John O'Dowd, insists the audit is not a charter for closing schools, but he does seem to believe that ending selection would be a big step on the road to recovery. A thought rejected by the DUP, whose Education Committee Chairman, Mervyn Storey, is with me, along with the Sinn Fein Education spokesman, Daithi McKay. Mervyn Storey, you're at pains to point out that this picture has emerged at the end of a period of Sinn Fein tenure of education, but you can't say Sinn Fein are responsible for falling roles, for lack of long-term investment, or for the wider ills which are affecting educational standards. So are you not just making cheap points?
No, I think that what we have demonstrated recently, Noel, has been that we're prepared to work with the Minister and the Department to try and find solutions. But I think that it has to be faced up to the reality that during the time that Sinn Féin has had education, remember they're the only party that has had education during devolution, we haven't seen the dramatic change. If this is a snapshot in time of our schools and our school facilities and our school population, it's a very poor reflection of that tenure. It's a very poor reflection of the way in which the Minister and the previous ministers have actually dealt with the issue.
But they're not responsible for falling roles.
They're not responsible for falling roles, but they are responsible, and the department is responsible for setting the policy context in which our education system is delivered. Now, there is an issue, and I think that the audits need to be put in some context. There's a glaring question that hasn't been asked of the Department of Education. The audit set a criteria or a benchmark for the two sectors in our educational system. The benchmark for the grammar schools was 7 GCSEs A star to C, and the benchmark was 85%. But the benchmark for the non-selectives was 5 GCSEs A star to C, and 25% as a benchmark. That was way below even the Northern Ireland average. So I think that there's a huge health warning has to be given with the way in which these figures are being interpreted. However, there certainly is huge challenges out there in relation to the future education of our young people.
Well, do you accept responsibility for the state that this snapshot shows us?
Well, I think we should put it into context, and if you do look at the figures and the statistics since 2006, for example, it shows that the number of young people who are getting good GCSEs from A to A star to C has increased from 52% to 59%, and that figure looks set to increase again. But to put this into context, what Sinn Féin have been saying for quite some time is that we need change in education. Now, the DUP have set their face against change. They have said that we have a world-class education system. What these figures clearly show is that that is not the case, and we need to set about a process now to build a sustainable school system.
All right, but the Minister associates sustainability with an end to selection. That's a big leap.
Absolutely.
Ending selection is not going to fix the ills of the Northern Ireland education system.
The most recent OECD report shows quite clearly that those countries who have the most successful education systems, that have the adequate skill sets coming out of the education system for their economies, are countries which do not have academic selection, and that there are those countries who measure in leadership within schools and educational quality. So that's what we need to do here. I think internationally that has been proven. We need to do it here, and those who have turned their face against this...
that's the first thing that needs to be done.
That is the first thing that needs to be done. We need to do away with academic selection. We need to change the education system to be fit for purpose in the 21st century. And of course we have 85,000 empty school desks. We have 150, the equivalent of 150 empty schools. But that is unsustainable.
All right, but the Minister himself says that the grammar schools are already adjusting to a wide academic range.
Absolutely.
So what's the problem?
I mean, the problem is the fact that grammar schools quite clearly are not they're not delivering in terms of their results, because quite clearly 35% of those are demonstrating some degree of stress. That is the same across the board, and in particular the controlled sector are demonstrating some stress as well. So I think that there's a need for us to look at that particular sector to try and see what the issues are there and to bring about some change. But the fact of the matter is we need change, and the other parties need to stop setting their face against this. I would agree at one point that Mervyn said we need to have a mature debate about this. These catcalls from the side about this being a hit list is absolutely ridiculous. This is the start of a process. We need to have a mature debate and bring about a better education system.
You're not going to agree tonight or any other time that the first thing that needs to be done is ending selection?
No, and I think it's regrettable that given this set of circumstances and these figures, that the best that Sinn Féin can come up with is having still the same old ideological debate. I think people who watch this programme tonight will want to know what are the solutions. What are the issues that are facing schools where there are serious issues in relation to the finance?
But it is part of a solution, perhaps.
Well, I think that when you get a situation where the Catholic Church has failed to be able to change the educationalists within its own sector, that there is merit in abandoning academic assessment, then I think...
But that's only because the grammar schools won't do what the Church tells them. Grammar schools are not necessarily themselves the best arbiters of the future.
That's an issue for the Catholic Church, and they have clearly failed to be able to address that issue. Now, I think that the mature debate has to be around ensuring that instead of having an ideological attack on certain sectors of our education system, that we focus in around educational outcomes. Now, I'll give you one example. I'll not name the school, but a school that I am very well familiar with on a personal basis was deemed to be a failing school. And that school has given, in terms of academic assessment and results, 84% of the young people leaving that school have actually very good outcomes and very good educational attainment. I think that what is clear in this debate is that the arguments around having larger schools, and I'm very concerned when I listen to CCMS or I listen to the department, I hear this repeated talk about larger schools. If you look at these figures, some of the larger schools are the schools that actually are under severe stress. So that raises the issue about making sure...
But it's all about area planning, isn't it? That's the future. And sure, that is something that pretty much everyone does agree on.
And that's the point, Noel, that I was going to come on to. We have to begin to look at the process of area planning and ensuring, and our party has been very clear on this issue about shared education, that we can't continue to replicate in every corner of the country 4 or 5 different schools. But what we can do and what we must do is ensure that the educational outcome for our children is the best we possibly can. And let's dispense these ideological wars and deal with the reality of the situation.
So there is a major core of agreement on the fact that area planning and sharing facilities, sharing schools is very much the way it has to go immediately in the short term. So why not just forget about a selection for the moment and get on with making that a success?
Well, we would view shared education in 2 ways. Not only in terms of from different religious backgrounds, but also in terms of socio-economic backgrounds. So you can't have it both ways. I mean, the executive, for its part, has agreed to set up a working group to look at the issue of shared education. That will be convening in the coming months, and that is something which has already been successful in a number of areas. The Education Committee recently went to Limavady to look at the success story that there is there, and that will not only have benefits in terms of local community, but also in terms of financial savings as well. So, absolutely, there are certainly areas of agreement. But in terms of the quality of education, I think that's what we need to keep on coming back to. The Minister has put in place the entitlement framework legislation, which will increase the choice for Key Stage 4 and 5 pupils.
And how is the quality of education linked to there being a social mix?
Well, I think that it is proven internationally, as I've already said. It is healthy at a primary school level, so why not a post-primary level? I mean, this is something which isn't in place in any other country, and I think it is quite clearly failed, and report after report, and stakeholder after stakeholder, the trade unions, the churches, those who work within the field are saying that academic selection has failed.
Parents are going to be very worried about all these figures. What reassurance can you, as the committee chairman, give them that something will be done in the very short term to improve things?
Well, I think that what they can take comfort from is that despite what is being said, we still have a very good basis to build in our education system. Comparing ourselves to other countries, OECD countries, is not a fair comparison. But I think that one thing that has to be addressed is, and this is not connected to academic selection, is our primary schools. Why is 1 in 4 of our children leaving primary school not having attained levels of numeracy and literacy? There's a huge issue there around making sure that the adequate resource is placed in our primary schools to deal with the issue.
It is a huge debate, gentlemen. Thank you very much.